Greetings, Glitter Gang. Happy Thursday. It's 2 o'clock on Thursday, December 3rd. You're watching Kathryn Scraps Live. I'm Kathryn, and it is still Halloween. It is still Halloween. So I am going to try to finish this today. Do I have hope I will? No. I mean, not really, but I'll do my best. I'll do my best to get this done because I'm not taking it into 2021. I just am not. I refuse. So, how is everything going with all of you? We didn't have class last week because it was... What was it? It was a holiday. It was Thanksgiving. It was Thanksgiving. I was like, well, I mean, we did do something last Thursday. It was a big deal. Do I know what it was? No. Does it matter? Not really. So, yes, since I have seen all of you, I did a wedding. I did it, the whole thing. I just performed the wedding by myself, like an interpretive dance. And my sister got married. I was the honor attendant, and that was a Sunday before Thanksgiving, and then we had Thanksgiving. So that happened. The flood is ongoing, if you can believe. We're still dealing with that. They just picked up the dehumidifiers from the dry out yesterday. That phase of it is done. So since that's happened, our fridge also broke. And yeah, and the property manager is in total chaos. So they got so confused. There's 3 different subcontractors working on the flood. They got so confused they had to send a rep over to try and look at everything and make sense of what was going on. And while he was there, he was like, well, maybe I'll fix this fridge. Couldn't fix it. The part that they ordered didn't fix the problem. So he was like, you know what? We're just going to order a new fridge. I got a call from the fridge guy today that they want to drop it off first thing in the morning tomorrow. And I was like, I'm so exhausted. But after the show, I'm going to have to go and take everything out of the fridge and the freezer and put it in the garage fridge and freezer. Hope it fits so that they can take the old fridge away tomorrow morning, because Mr. Lifeguard is just going to have to deal with that, because I'm not getting up first thing in the morning tomorrow to deal with that after doing a show tonight. So yeah, it's been a blast. Or imagine a blast and then the opposite of that is what happened. So it was like a blast, but a bad blast. So more like a grenade than a firework. That's my life right now. More like a grenade than a firework. In fact, that could be 2020's slogan. So, 2 of the people who were at the wedding have COVID, but they, based on the timeline of their symptoms, they think they got it at Thanksgiving. So, and the person they think they got it from was not at the wedding. So, it's been long enough that if we had been infected at the wedding, we would all be infected now. So, whatever, we're fine. But that was also something we got to stress out about for a few days. So that was cool. That was really cool. It was an outdoor wedding. The odds of having been infected were super small, but, still. We were like, great. I was like, great, just what I needed. I'm going to die. Now I'm going to die. Did it seem like forever to me? It did. It did seem like forever to me. Okay, so I have pinned a comment in the chat that says, not a cornfield. If you can see that pinned comment, then you're not in a cornfield. So if you can see that comment, you're not in a cornfield. So that is how you know. If you don't see that comment, just keep refreshing the page until you do see that comment. And then and then you'll know you're not in a cornfield. Kathryn said, on the bright side, your nails are amazing. I actually like this shape. I don't normally go this pointy. Like, I think this is technically the almond. And my shape when I do my nails myself that I usually do is the squoval, because I read online years ago that the best shape for you is basically whatever your cuticle is, and I have a squoval cuticle. So I don't normally go to a point, but I kind of like the point. What do you guys think? Do you like the point? So this is the almond versus the squoval. The only nail I don't like is this one. And I just think it's because this fingernail is so big. I have really big nail beds. I'm sure you guys have noticed over the years. And when you get tips, the tips the tips they have to use for this finger, they have to go a little bit bigger because the next size down doesn't fit it. And I always feel like this middle finger is too big whenever I get tips, which is why I normally don't get tips. But my dress for the wedding was orange, like a fire orange. So that's why. Let me see if I've got a picture. Here we go. So that's the dress from the wedding. It's Mr. Lifeguard photobombing me. So, yeah. So, I guess is that all the announcements? I think that's all the announcements. So, it's really cold here right now. It's really cold. Like, it's cold enough that we are raining iguanas. You know, that's how you know it's really cold in Florida, is if you're raining iguanas. And so what happens is if it dips below a certain temperature, iguanas go into a kind of coma-like state, and they just stay in this sort of like hibernation coma thing until it warms up. And wherever they are when they go into this state, they just like fall. So they rain down out of trees, like they fall on your driveway and stuff. So it's raining iguanas. So that's how you know. That's how you know it's cold, if it's raining lizards. So the cats are having near constant meltdowns. So, okay. So we are gonna, raining lizards. It's great. It's great. That's what we do. So we're gonna I'm gonna hopefully remember how to craft. I don't know if I remember. Let me say hi to everybody. So hi to Kathryn. She was the first to chat after I chatted. So I was actually the first to chat because I was organized today. Donna says that I guess I wasn't in a cornfield. You're not. Oh, she was in a cornfield, but now she's back. Priya says, hello, glittery friends. Ellen says, hello, did it seem like forever to you? Yes, it did. It felt like forever. When I was getting ready for the show this morning, I was like, do I know how to scrapbook? Because I'm not sure that I know how to scrapbook anymore. Like, what if I don't remember how to do that and I can't finish this book because I forgot? Like, as if it's been 2 years since the last show instead of 2 weeks since the last show. Okay. Bev, hello to Bev and to Candy and to Vicky and May. How are all of you? I hope everyone who celebrated Thanksgiving had a good one. Sally Ann says, love the nails, thank you. Oh yeah, allergies are great. I actually had an allergic reaction to a mask I wore. The mask I wore to the wedding venue. I had an allergic reaction. I had hives break out on my lower face. Itchy red hives break out on the bottom of my face like as a beard from wherever the mask touched me. That happened day of the wedding. That happened. So I had to like work to cover that up with makeup so I wouldn't look like crazy. My skin was so textured and awful and I felt really bad, but I look totally fine in the pictures, which is just a testament to my makeup skills. So thank goodness I knew how to handle it, and thank goodness I had like a redness reducer that I was able to use to cover that. And it took days for it to go away. It was like on my lips, and then after it went away, then my whole bottom half of my face peeled off, and I had like just like a beard, a snowy white dead skin beard. So yeah, it was awesome. That was so good. That was, and everyone was like, it's just a stress rash. My sister's like, you've got, and I'm like, I've never had a stress rash in my life. I have never in my life had a stress mask. So, a stress mask. Well, it was a mask, but a stress rash. And it was only where the mask had touched my face. So I eventually figured out that it was the mask. You know, I don't know. It was a disposable mask. And, who even knows? But like, I got a pack of disposable masks for the wedding so that I could like, you know, if I had one on while I was getting my hair done, and then I could just throw it away, and then we'd get ready, and then traveling to the venue, and I could throw that one away. You know, like I wanted to be able to just get rid of them and not have to like try to keep track of a mask and try to keep it clean for, you know, and try to not touch it and get it all germy and whatever. So, you know, I was just using disposable masks, but like that one just sucked. But it was literally Amazon's choice for disposable masks, which is why I got it. So I'm guessing it's a me problem. Made of 5 layers of non-woven fabric, melt-blown, moisture-resistant, non-toxic, non-irritant, reusable masks. It says reusable. I think they mean like lightly reusable because it's not made out of like fabric. It's very plasticky like. Like it feels like some kind of fake material. It says it's made out of hot air cotton and melt-blown fabric. 33S melt-blown fabric. I don't even know what that means. This is all just made up words. Thickened fabric with layer by layer filtration. Sure. Whatever. I have no idea what it's made out of. Whatever it's made out of, my face does not like it. So, clearly not non-toxic. I know. Yeah, whatever that chemical is now out in the environment. Yeah, it must have, I think whatever the processing they do to this melt-blown fabric, there's some chemical involved that irritated my face, for sure. Yeah, it says it's waterproof and breathable, which, it actually says waterproof, breathable, unafraid droplets. Sometimes I really love the Amazon descriptions. Because it's like, are the droplets not afraid? Are they the water droplets that are not afraid? So, or you don't have to be afraid of droplets. So, but yeah, BioTH face masks is what they are, and they're Amazon's choice for KN95 masks. I do not recommend. But everyone else was fine. So, you know, your mileage may vary. Oh, Mary. Mary said that she once had a reaction, and then the dermatologist gave her a steroid that made it worse, and then it became a vicious cycle. I had, on this hand, I think, gotten some kind of fungal reaction or something, like ringworm, maybe, something like that, just like, or that's what they thought it was, or said it was. And whatever they gave me, like the antifungal treatment they gave me allergic contact dermatitis. So then I had like that to deal with, and it took it was horrible, you know. And so I had this, my hand was messed up for a long time, like weeks. I don't even know if it was ringworm. I don't know how I would have gotten ringworm on my hand. That's not like where you get ringworm. And also I'm not a wrestler, so whatever. Just further proof that doctors are idiots. So, why is being human so complicated? That's a good question. Mary. If only there was like a manual that worked for all humans and there weren't so many different models, because then it would be less confusing for the people who have to maintain us. So May had to have surgery on her thumb and she can't craft. That's terrible. I'm sorry to hear that, May. All right, we got Barbara Jean and Melanie in the house. Judy is here. Mary is here. Okay, so just a reminder that book club is early this month and you have 2 books to read. So December 17th is book club because we're not having class on December 24th because it's Christmas Eve, and we're not having class on December 31st because it's New Year's Eve. So we have just 3 weeks of classes this month, and then I'm going to take 2 weeks off for Christmas, and then I'll be back in January, and we will start the box set album remaster immediately upon returning. So when we come back, it will be January 7th. That'll be the first class after the break, and we will start that class on that day. Okay? So I will make sure to put the manual on sale, let's say January 4th. It's not a manual, it's a basics guide, but January 4th, Monday, January 4th is when that'll be available for purchase. Okay? So that way you have time to like download it and look at it and start your planning before we have the planning class on January 7th. So December 17th is book club, 2 books, okay? A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens and Jacob T. Marley by some guy who I don't remember, which is A Christmas Carol told from Jacob Marley's perspective. So 2 books. 2 books. I'm trying to look up Jacob T. Marley. R. William Bennett. I was going to say Robert Jackson Bennett, but that's a different author. That would have been confusing. All right, so we're going to have class this week, next week, the week after that, which is the 17th, is book club. No class the 24th, no class the 31st, then class on the 7th. Okay? So 2-week Christmas vacation, Christmas/winter holiday vacation, because it encompasses many holidays. All right, here we go. We're doing a book. Now, if I recall correctly, yes. Okay. So where we got with this is we finished everything on the interior that has to be flat. Okay. So these 2 parts don't have to be flat because see how they face each other on the very inside? So we can turn them into like pouchy pouches or envelopes or something. So I think we're going to do an interactive element on each side of these, and they can be like 1/2 inch thick. Honestly, they can be pretty big. So we could do an accordion pouch of some kind. We could do, well, let's do an accordion pouch. So we'll do one of them an accordion pouch with like a button string closure. Let me get a planning book. Oh. All right. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to finally be seeing the light at the end of this tunnel. You know, something I've observed about these nails that is interesting to me is it's very normal for my nails to be this long. You guys know I grow my natural nails out all the time, but I've really been struggling with typing and writing with these nails. And I'm trying to figure out if it's because I went from like short to long and didn't have like a long, slow grow out where I adjusted. Or if it's because they're thicker than I'm used to. Okay, so let's see. We have to measure this panel to see what we're working with. So if the cats come in crying, I'm sorry, but they're having a tough time. All right, so it looks like it's 8 1/4. So we're gonna make the final thing 8 inches. And I think it's 11, right? Okay, so 8 by 10 3/4 is what we need our final size to be. 10 3/4. Okay, so I'm thinking, because we did a lot of frames, you know, we have a lot of things that look like frames. We have this frame, we have this portrait, you know, we have another frame somewhere else. And so I kind of want to do something with a frame, but I don't want to do like a frame. So I want, you know, not like a rectangular one. So I want to think about shapes and how to do an interesting shape. So, and I mean, I know how to make a pouch. So, the pouch needs to be 8 inches across plus an inch plus 2 inches. So 8, 9, 11. So our cardstock, we have one piece that's 11 inches by, and then it's just a matter of how far up do we want it to go. And I'm thinking about this far. I like, well, if it's 11, if it's 11 inches, let's just subtract 3 inches from this. So that would make it come up 7 3/4. That's just an annoying measurement. So we're going to have it come up 8. We're going to have it come up 8 inches. So by 9.5 inches. So 8 by 9.5. Now, where did I get these two numbers? Okay, so let's talk about that. So when you're doing an accordion pocket, what you do is, this is the size you want. You take your finished size, in this case, 8 by 10 3/4. And this is the piece for the bottom of the pocket. We're going to make a thing to go down over the top of it as well. The 11 comes from, I added 3 to the width, right? How did I know I needed to add 3? I need 1 inch on either side to tuck under and stick to this page. That's where 2 of the inches come from. The 3rd inch comes from, I need a 1/2 inch on either side for the accordion. So if I want it to be 1/2 inch thick, that's where that 1/2 inch comes from. So that's why I added 3 inches, okay? So to this one, I add 1.5 inches because it's not double-sided. I only have one flap that goes under. So I have my 1/2 inch for my gusset and then my inch flap to stick down. So I add 1.5 inches to whatever height I want it to be. So if I want it to be 8 inches, okay, so this is 8 inches. If I want it to be 8 inches, I do 8 plus 1.5. So the top, it's the same, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the top just as long. All right. The only difference is we don't have to put sides on the top. So the top is still 8 inches because we don't have to put sides on the top, but still 9.5 inches because we're going to have it come 8 inches down. So we're going to have like a long flap over the top. Okay. All right. So we need one piece that's 11 by 9.5. And we're going to score it at, let me just, on the 11 inch side at 1 inch, 1 1/4 inches, 1.5 inches. So it's 1.5 plus 8 is 9.5. We're going to score it at 9.5. And 9 3/4. And 10. All right. So that's the measurement. Okay, so this is piece number 1. Those are the scores. I'm going to hold it here. You can take a screenshot, write it down, whatever. And then for this one, oh, and then that's for the side to side. Then on the top to bottom, it'll also get scored at 8, 8 1/4, 8.5. All right. And then this one gets scored just on the just on this one, just on the 9.5, and it gets scored at 8. Same measurements as these, 8.5, 8 1/4, and 8.5. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that there, and I'm gonna go cut my cardstock, and I'll be back. So, I mean, I always say that like I'm leaving. I'm not. I mean, I'm just going across the room, and you can hear me while I'm over there, but still. I'll just act all dramatic like I'm leaving. I love you. Goodbye. All right, so I got the first one cut. Now I need the second one. All right, now we're gonna score. Where's my scoreboard? Oh, I put it away in its drawer. That was so... All right, so this piece is 11 by 9.5. On the 11-inch side, we're gonna score at 1 inch. Okay, and then we're going to flip it end over end so that that score line stays at 1 inch. And we're going to score at 1 1/4. Then we're going to flip it back. We're going to score at 1.5. Then we're going to score at 9.5. Okay. Flip it end over end. Score at 9 3/4. Flip it end over end. Score at 10. Okay. So you have something that looks like this on each side. Okay. Then turn it to its 8-inch or its 9.5-inch side, and you're going to score at 8 inches. You're going to flip it end over end, score at 8 1/4. Flip it end over end, and score it at 8.5. Also, just as a reminder, I'm going to do Glitter Party again this year. We're going to have a Glitter Party 2021. So, last year I called it Glitter Party 2019, but I announced the winner in 2020, so it's kind of annoying. So we're not having a Glitter Party 2020 because I was dumb with how I did it last year. So we didn't skip a year. We just didn't, I just didn't do it right. All right, so this one is 8 inches by 9.5. We're going to score on the 9.5-inch side at 8 inches. 8 1/8 inches. 8 1/4 inches. 8 3/8 inches. 8 1/2 inches. Okay. So you have boom, 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 and this will make a rolled top. So this will have a rolled top. So for Glitter Party 2019, you can look up on the Kathryn Scraps group. You can put in hashtag Glitter Party 2019, and you can see what we did for Glitter Party last year. That way you can on the Glitter Gang group, you know what I mean, the Facebook group, not the Facebook page. We put hashtag Glitter Party 2019, and you'll be able to see all the posts from last year. But essentially what it is you're going to be posting a complete, and I mean complete, it has to be done. It either has to have photos or photo mats. Like, it has to be clearly done. A complete Kathryn Scraps album. It can be from a tutorial, it can be from an album basics guide, or it can be from like free YouTube videos, so you don't have to spend money to participate, that you haven't posted before. So it has to be new to the world. Okay, it has to be something you haven't posted before. And then you'll just post Glitter Party 2021 as a hashtag Glitter Party 2021 in the post. Don't do it yet. I'm going to do an official post about this at the beginning of January. Okay, but I'm giving you a heads up just because I'm a nice person. Sometimes I'm a nice person, very occasionally. So those of you that are here every week are getting a heads up that it's coming again. Last year, the prize was a Rototrim or $200 if you already had a Rototrim for a shopping spree. So we'll probably do that again this year, although I did see some cool printer-y looking stuff that Polaroid is doing, but it'll probably be a Rototrim. So all right, so on this one, the one that you scored every 1/8 of an inch, you're just gonna fold along all the score lines and burnish. So, I don't know how many of you follow Supernatural, which is this TV show that's been on for like half my life. But that finally ended right before Thanksgiving, I want to say. And I have a friend whose husband is currently stationed in Germany, so she can't watch the finale. And she's trying to not get it spoiled for her, but like so much social media is talking about it that she's trying to. I know that show was still on. It just ended. But like, if you like participate in a TV show fandom and then you can't watch that TV show, just to give you an idea of how like big of a deal the ending of the show was, if you don't know about the show at all. There was the second to last episode aired 2 days after the election in the United States. And just for like context, the person who got the most votes ever in history was Joe Biden, and the person who got the second most votes ever in U.S. history was Donald Trump. So this is the most voted in election in U.S. history. Okay, so the most voted in election in U.S. history still hadn't been decided. This is 2 days after the election. Still hadn't been decided. No one knew what was going on. States were counting, recounting, whatever. And this show trended #1 on Twitter. That's also the night that the rumor went out that Vladimir Putin was resigning. And this show trended #1 on Twitter. It trended above the election. It trended above Vladimir Putin possibly resigning. By the way, he's not. So, yeah, that's how crazy it is as a like cultural phenomenon. You haven't watched it yet, Fran? Well, Fran, if you never watch it, the show will never be over. So there's that. Bev, I know, huge surprise. Huge surprise that Vladimir Putin did not resign. Hugely surprising to all of us. Huge. Like, I was like, what a shock. Like, what a shock. His whole government resigned, but, you know, and he was like, whatever, I don't need you guys. But then he was just going to, out of the blue, resign one day. Sure. All right, so we've got that one. So you, like I said, you just roll on all those scores. It could still happen, but that Vladimir Putin could resign. Well, technically he has to. I mean, he's got some term limit that he's coming up against in a couple of years. And the last time he came up against that term limit, Dmitry Medvedev extended it because he was a prime minister. So, like, Putin and Medvedev had this relationship where I thought they were, like, bros, where whenever Putin couldn't be president anymore, like, he would go do, like a year as prime minister to, like, break his term limit, and then Medvedev would be president, and then Medvedev would resign as president, and Putin went back to be president. And then the next time Putin came up against a term limit, Medvedev just had the legislature vote on changing the term limits for the president. And so when he resigned, everyone was like, what in the heck? Because I thought they had a whole system worked out, but I guess it's possible to get sick of Vladimir Putin. I know you guys don't believe that, okay? But apparently it's possible. You can get sick of him. Am I saying they're corrupt? I'm just saying that that was what it appeared as though they had a good thing going. No, France said, I just thought he did whatever he wanted and it was law. Well, no, see, that's a problem with the legislature resigning is he didn't. He would have them, I mean, presumably it started with him. He would have them being headed by Medvedev, who, again, I thought they were bros. He would have them pass laws to make what he wanted to do legal, and then he would do it. But now he doesn't have that anymore. So, you know, whatever. But, like, he still wasn't going to resign over it, okay? So anyone who got their hopes up that Putin was resigning is, I'm sorry to break it to you. I don't think that's going to happen. However, not that many people did, or at least not as many people as watched the finale of Supernatural. So, well, I guess that wasn't the finale, but it was like 2 or 3 episodes before the finale. But, like, something happened that was a really big deal. So, I mean, I saw it trending, and I haven't watched Supernatural in a long time. I'm trying to think of the years, 7-ish. We all totally believed that Putin was resigning. I know. The Leviathan, that was what broke my spirit with the show. I couldn't take it. And then that's when I stopped watching it, like, as it was going on. And then it was my sister's, like, most favorite show. I mean, it still might be, but, like, you know, when she was going through everything she was going through, like, that show really helped her. So, okay. Now, before I go into that, we need to talk about this envelope. Because what we have to do is we have to get this tab here has to get attached here. And we have to crunch this into like a triangle. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this. I just hope I don't fork this up, as they would say on The Good Place. Yeah, I think I'm okay. The Good Place was great because you learned about philosophy and ethics, and it was also hilarious. So I'm going to cut this out just to this first line here, and hopefully that's correct. Normally when I make these accordion pockets, I do the accordion separate. What is the other one? Holy shirt. Holy shirt. That trolley problem was probably my favorite episode of it because I loved Ted Danson not understanding what the problem was with the trolley problem. Like, I hate the trolley problem. We've discussed that a number of times on the show, that I hate the trolley problem. But like, Ted Danson thought the problem with the trolley problem was that you couldn't kill everyone. And he figured out a way to kill everyone. So that was amazing. That was amazing. All right. What have I done? I mean, I need this to bend on the diagonal here. I may have like messed up my brain by not doing it the way I usually do it. But yeah, we've talked about the trolley problem on the show. You know, the value of the trolley problem allegedly is helping a person understand like what their particular type of moral relativism or moral philosophy is. So it's not about like, it's just about your teacher learning how you think, or, you know, whoever you're talking to, because there isn't actually like, it's not a problem with an answer. Okay. I don't know how to do this. I'm just like, this is breaking my brain, much like the trolley problem. Yeah, there's no correct answer. I'm just gonna like use this other side to kind of like jam everything where I would normally put it. So it's really just an illustration of your personal moral philosophy. So like, for example, my answer to the trolley problem is that you don't act, meaning you don't throw the switch, because when you throw the switch, you become the agent of change, and therefore you become the agent of someone's destruction. So if you don't act, then it's just an accident. It's just an accident. And accidents happen, and that's the chaos of the universe, okay? But if you do act, you are deliberately choosing to kill someone. That's what you're doing. So I just don't think it's right to deliberately make that choice, regardless of who is in the trolley and who is on the tracks. Okay. And there is a name for that, that type of moral philosophy. You know, I just don't. Okay. Well, look, this is not working, so I'm going to just fix it the way I would normally do it. So the way that I would normally do it, I don't know what my problem is, but I'm going to need some strips of paper. So, goodness. I told you I would forget how to craft. I told you. All right, I want some 2.5-inch strips of paper. This one is 2.5 inches. That's convenient. I only need 2. But there's not a right answer to the trolley problem. There are other people who would not agree, and they would seek like a harm reduction. They would want to minimize the harm. So like if there was like, you know, 10 Hitlers in the trolley and 10 Mother Teresas on the tracks, they would avert the trolley, you know. Okay, so on these 2-inch or 2.5-inch by 12-inch strips, I'm going to score at 1 inch and 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to score at 1.25 down the middle. Now, what's good about this way of doing it, this strip way that I'm about to show you versus the way I originally laid it out is, number one, I think I'll actually be able to do it. So that's a step in the right direction. But number two is you can use this system for any size envelope of this style that you want to do. So you are not limited to the measurements I told you earlier. You can change the measurements for any project that you want to add an envelope like this. Yeah, leaving it up to God, or essentially you're just leaving it up to chance by choosing not to intervene. And so then people what you have to watch out for with the trolley problem is people will try to extrapolate from that something that you believe about the world. So like they would say, you know, does that mean you never intervene in anything? Like, what about a war? And I do tend to be pretty anti-war. So I'm pretty against regime change type wars, and I'm pretty anti-interventionist. But that doesn't mean I'm totally anti-interventionist. I think that for the most part, people need to solve their own problems militarily speaking, and you can support them humanitarianly versus militarily. So, you know, if they're starving because they have a corrupt government, you can get them food, you know, would be the better thing to do than trying to overthrow their government, because it doesn't always work. You know, you're not always doing the best thing when you interfere in that way. But that doesn't mean you would never. I mean, there are some very clear, obvious points where the person is so atrocious, as in doing so many atrocities, that they're a clear and present danger to the world, and it's self-defense to stop them. You know, World War II is a perfect example of this. So yeah, like, that's the reason I think the trolley problem is annoying, is because, like, you can't actually tell what anyone thinks about anything from the trolley problem. Okay, so now we just need a piece of paper that's the size of this square, which is 8 by 8. 8 by 8. I would just like to point out that I was trying to talk about Supernatural. I was trying to have a pop culture conversation, and now this just shows you how deep The Good Place was as a show, because I told one Good Place joke and now we're talking about philosophy. It's Philosocrafter. The Philosocrafter is back. Okay. So now we're going to put tape on both sides of one of these pieces. Yeah, it was a great show. But yeah, when Ted Danson's character solved the trolley problem, I like howled with laughter. And the trolley problem is going to matter to us as a society with self-driving cars. We are going to have to come to some kind of societal consensus on which lives matter more than other lives. Or if we're just going to let driving cars just do whatever they want, because, you know, they will have to be programmed to either prioritize pedestrian safety or prioritize the driver's safety, or, you know, and the car can't tell the difference between a bus full of orphans and a bus full of mass murderers. It can't. But it will have to be programmed. The car will have to be programmed to make ethical choices like this. And, you know, it won't be ethical when the car does it. It'll be ethical when the person programs it. So that's why, like, these types of ethical conundrums can matter in the modern times. Because what the trolley problem reveals is what kind of personal philosophy you have, and we will need a societal philosophy from which we create a code of ethics that are then programmed into the AIs of self-driving cars. And a lot of Monica's like, what am I walking into? And if you want to see how that's handled in a funny way, you can watch, what's that show on Amazon where the guy is killed in the self-driving car accident and he gets uploaded? Oh, I think it's called Upload. I think it's called Upload. But in Upload, you can see the ethics of self-driving cars are actually a major plot point in the show. So, you know. Does that make us all Velocicrafters? Yeah, we're all Velocicrafters. It's very similar to a Velociraptor. Velocicrafters are also similar to Velociraptors. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our 8x8 piece and we're basically going to center it. It doesn't have to be perfectly centered. It doesn't matter. All right. So I'm just going to remove the tape, except I don't have any nails, so I have to use my pick, which I should be using anyway, because the amount of times I've like stabbed myself under the fingernail with tape is getting silly. But if you wanted to center it, it's 2 inches in. So I'll do that. I'll be good. Okay. All right. So once you get to this point, then, this might tell me what I did wrong with the other thing. You just make a slit right here. So you're going to cut from the score line up. Okay. From the score line up along the edge of the paper. And then this gets tucked in. So what we can do is we can just kind of fold it over to help with that. So we have a nice crisp corner. And then we just stick it to this side, okay? Dun, da, da, da. All right, so obviously what I did wrong with the other thing is I needed to just make a slit instead of removing something. Let's see if I could figure out where I would need to make that slit. I think it's right here. Except, no, it's right here. Yeah. That's it. That's all I would have to do. So you just make a slit right here. And that will do it. So now we know. And I could actually fix this one. I'll fix this one when I'm done showing you this one. All right. So once again, we're gonna make that slit and then fold it over and then craft and then stick that up and then press that down. And then this is super easy. Then we'll just take this and we'll cut it in half at 6 inches and stick half of it to each side to fill in the rest. So just like that. So just remove the tape. And then we're going to stick it down, and I'm going to make it even with this edge. Okay. And this little gap here isn't going to be a gap once this is stuck down to the book, really, you know. But what you can do if it's like bothering you is you can just stick a little piece of tape on it. Cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. Doing the cha-cha. Probably stick a piece of tape on it. There. Yeah, but it doesn't matter because once you stick it down, it's down. Now, oh, let me put this other side. Okay, so now we have this. So now what we have to do is we have to collapse the corners. All right, so the best way to collapse the corners is, well, first we have to make a slit here. We're going to cut from the edge to the score line. Okay, so that you can fold it over itself like this. All right. And if you want to, just to make it easier, you can peel this little corner of tape here. All right, so that you can kind of stick this to that. And that'll keep that corner square while you work on squishing it. Okay. All right, so once that corner is square, very simply, you're going to push with your thumb against your middle finger. You're going to squeeze like this. But you have to keep your pointer fingers in this crack, pushing them towards each other while you squish so that you collapse it into this little V. And that's how you make it. That's how you make it collapse. And it's easy. It's easy. I know this is the part that's like the kind of, you know, awkward part, but it's really simple. Let's do it again. All right. So again, you're pushing, you're squeezing your thumb and your middle finger. You're squeezing your thumb and your middle finger, and you're putting your pointer fingers in. All right. And then that's it. That's all you have to do. And you've made an accordion pocket. Okay, so easy. All right, so I'm gonna set this aside for a sec. Let me get the other one back and talk about how I would deal. So on the side that's just slit, basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna glue this to this. Okay, so you're kind of gluing these to each other, and I do think you should use glue. Because tape's gonna add a lot of bulk. So you're gonna put glue on here. Not on, avoid this square in the middle. Okay. So you come around and glue. Anyway, so yeah, I at some point caught up on Supernatural. I think when we were in Texas, we caught up on Supernatural because it was my sister's favorite show. And then, you know, again, I don't know anything that's happened in like since then. Well, I do know because of cultural osmosis / Twitter, but I don't like really know. You know, I just know some highlights. All right. I'm going to get a clothespin. All right. And so this one, we'll put tape, or we'll put glue here and here, but not on that square. And the reason why you're not putting it on that square is that square needs to be mobile. So you don't want to glue that corner shut or else it can't expand. All right, and then once that dries, you treat it exactly the same as the one I just did, meaning you'll do a slit right here and put, you know, so if you look at it, this is exactly how this piece was before we cut the slit and folded it down, this piece. So these are the same now. So you can do it the way that I first tried to do it. So I just showed you 2 different ways to do it, and that was my goal the whole time, obviously. Duh. Was just give you options. So I, as usual, pretended to mess up so that you could learn. Because I'm a giver. I'm a giver, okay? All right. So now we just need tape on this flap. Of course. Out of tape. It's my 1/2-inch tape. I bet I'm not really out of it. Yeah. To keep working through my 1/2-inch tapes. Ah, no! Okay. You're so welcome for the teaching moments. You're so welcome. I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo over the break. If you like historical fiction, like, it's a fictional biography of a fictional actress who I think is kind of loosely based on Elizabeth Taylor. A little bit, not totally, but like she had 7 husbands, so that's who comes to mind. But Fran says, I bet Kathryn has these teaching moments planned out on her wall calendar. Absolutely. I have a whole planner, like, just for teaching moments, which ones I'm going to do when, you know. When I'm in the shower, the only thing I think about is teaching moments. All my teaching moments are shower thoughts. 100% of them. What if I... Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So we're going to open up our book. And this is going to go at the top of this one, about 1/8 of an inch down from the top. So I want to center it side to side. I'm actually going to turn this upside down so it could be closer to me. And that's just a good, you know, pro tip is if you need to see something better, turn it over. Just turn it over. Thank goodness you're not in California and can take long, frequent showers. That's true. I mean, Florida, we don't have the water problems that California has, that's for sure. Although we sell a lot of our water, so we are kind of, we do have water problems, you know, but we wouldn't if we didn't sell our water. So that's like a, you know. Most of our problems are related to like Nestle not abiding by the environmental impact agreements of taking water from our aquifers for bottled water, things like that. So I know it shocks you that a large corporation would not care about the environment, but it happens, guys. It happens. All right. So now that we've got that down, I can put this down. Ooh, the windscreen came off my microphone. I'm going to have to put it back on, so I'm going to mute myself. I'll be right back. Back. Okay. I think that the last one that I looked at that was allegedly causing problems was whoever owns Deer Park, which I think is Nestle. Google who owns Deer Park. Nestle, yeah. That's what I thought. If you ever want to be depressed, just Google Nestle, just in general as a company. They're up there with some of the, like, I'm talking like Monsanto levels of bad worldwide. All right, so but if you don't want to be depressed, don't look it up. They also own Arrowhead. That's their California name. Okay. They own, I mean, I think they control some staggering amount of the world's water. So, like, it's not a small, there's a number of companies, water companies that are all Nestle companies. All right, so now I'm going to center this on the bottom. press it down. And then really burnish it once it's in place. All right, there it is. So now we have this flap and this pocket, and look how much the pocket expands. Like I can put... They have natural gas and crude pipelines too, and they control some huge amount of the chocolate plantations or whatever, you know, like, yeah, it's like they don't just have like their fingers in like one. Candy says my son rants about Nestle on a fairly regular basis, although he rants about a few things regularly. Well, it's good to have like a few rants like in the pipeline that you can go to. Some of mine are, my common punching bags for me if I want to rant about a corporation, of course, Amazon, Google, and Disney is another one that I will just go, like, I will go 12 rounds with anyone who thinks Disney isn't a force for evil in the world. Like, you can still like Disney movies, okay? Just acknowledge they're a force for evil. It's fine, okay? Disney, yeah, but Google, like, for example, Google has more power over the governments of the world than any other corporation in human history, including the East India Company. Like, think about that. That's a company that, like, I mean, genocides happened because of that company. Like, exterminations of people, wars where countries stopped being able to govern themselves. Like, you know, that's the type of power that Google has. They just aren't, like, actively trying to take over the world physically. But, like, their influence over the world is vast. So it's not necessarily like benign because, you know, they change how they do business depending on the country. Anyway, whatever. Google owns YouTube, so we don't want the subtitler to come through and see that I'm criticizing the powers that be and shut me down again. So, all right. Now that this is in, I'm just going to show you with this one, if you did it this way, how you would do it. But it's very simple. All you have to do is make a slit right here on this seam. And then you just would tape it together on the corner like you did with the other one. And then it's ready for you to squish it. It's just a little thicker because you have more layers, but you can still squish it. So see, I still was able to squish it. All right, now I'm going to put this in the recycling bin, but that's how you would do it. Yes, we do have class tonight, Donna. Okay, so I've been reading a lot lately about Amazon and the publishing industry and just the publishing industry in general. And, like, there's no good guys there. The big five publishers, by the way, there's only 4 now because Penguin, Random House bought Simon & Schuster. So now it's the big 4 publishers. You know, they and Amazon are like mortal enemies. And they all behave so shadily. Okay. And the losers are, you know, authors and readers. So, okay. Now that we're here, all we have to do is decorate this, put stuff in it. You know, so we'll make some cute inserts and whatever. So, let me just make some notations. So we know that this is 8x8. And we know that this is 8x8. That way, if I come back tonight and I'm not done, you know. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put the closure here. And we have a couple ways we can do this. One is we can do button and string, because even though I've stuck this down, I can attach the button and string closures to the pattern paper and they'll still be concealed and everything will go in and out of the pocket just fine, easy peasy, whatever. So that's option one. Option two would be that we could put something here, you know, that this slipped under, kind of like we did here. And it would just have to be attached to the front of this instead of being part of this. You know what I mean? So we could do something like this. So that's really the question, is do we want to do something like this, where we attach like an element here that this tucks behind, or do we want to do a button and string closure, which we've also done a button and string closure. So it's not like we've done both of them. We can do whatever we want. What are you guys feeling? I'll let you vote. Vote one for, let's call it a pressure fit. So an element like this where it's going to slide under and it's going to be held down by pressure. That's one. And then two would be button and string. So that's two. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Bev wants 3. Bev, you want to come up with a third closure? Is that it? Okay. So, one is winning. Bev wants a magnet or a Velcro. What I'm going to do is, I can do a swivel where it swivels out of the way on a brad. And then that would be a third way that's also a pressure fit way. So that would be number 1. So we can do that. All right, let's look at the embellishments and see if there's like an embellishment that we want to use as the jumping off point for our swivel. Bev might get her way after all. We might have some haunted house vibes if we use something like this that could like pull down like this. You know what I mean? Like a secret switch in the laboratory. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that we put a brad somewhere around here, and then we elevate this skull up to cover that brad, and then we put like a magnet here so that when this is in its like fully up position, it's kind of holding the top down, but then you can pull it, pshwang. That's the noise it'll make, pshwang. And then it'll come out of the way and you can just lift it. The only question is, do we want an orange pumpkin or a white pumpkin? I think we're going to do the white pumpkin, and I'm going to put this spooky on it. The skull does need to be drinking wine. The wine drinks itself. When the wine drinks itself, what's the other half of that? That book, slash movie made Time's 100 Best Fantasy Novels of All Time. That's The Last Unicorn. There's a riddle they have to solve in The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. When the wine drinks itself, when the skull speaks, when the clock strikes the right time, only then will you find the tunnel that leads to the Red Bull. There's a trick to it, of course. Yeah. That is one of my favorite pieces of fantasy media, both the book and the movie of The Last Unicorn. And the movie is an animation. It's weird, but it's weird because it's like, I guess you would think it was for kids maybe because it's an animation about a unicorn, but like there's like, you know, some real adult stuff in it, let's say. Just looking for some other little doodads I can maybe stick in here to add some color like the spooky does. Some famous people in it. Alan Arkin. One of the Bridges. Jeff, maybe. Mia Farrow, maybe. All right. So what we're going to do is we need to think about how we're going to like create this vignette. The skull and anything next to the skull will remain stationary. And then these will be mobile. So, all right, let's get that thing I just threw into the recycling bin because we can use this cardstock. Stick it all to the cardstock. I'm going to move this out of the way very carefully and gently. And we'll get to work. Just going to pull this apart so I can work with it flat. If you were wondering if the album was sturdy, the answer is yes. Because I've been throwing it on the floor this whole time and it's fine. You heard it splat. It was more of a foomp. Foomps are fine. Foomps are less drastic than splats. Or like a ploof. Sometimes people ask me if it's hard to talk intelligently for 2 hours twice a week while your mind is occupied with something else, you know. And I just say, I mean, maybe if I talked intelligently, it would be hard. But that's not the energy of this show. So. it would be a lot harder if I actually, you know, was trying to sound. Back in the beginning, I used to try and sound smart, but I gave up on that. I, like, used to be much more careful and thoughtful. Poof is the sound that Wile E. Coyote makes when he hits the bottom of the canyon. Poof is poof. But I said ploof with an L, which is a totally different. A ploof is even softer than a poof. So, but sometimes I like replay the things that I say back to myself and imagine what they would look like typed, and, you know, think about how stupid they are. And I'm like, well, I mean, at least I'm still pretty good at crafting. So nobody's watching this show because of, you know, because I'm a Toastmaster or whatever. And thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Okay. But yeah, I used to get really upset when I would say things that I thought were stupid. And now I'm just like, it's not even close to the stupidest thing I've said on this show. All right. So, got this cut out. I'm going to ink all the pieces with the black ink, you know, to cover the edges. So, some of those TED Talks do need levity. It's always interesting to me what YouTube thinks you'd be interested in, and how, when it's right and when it's wrong. Because, like, one time I was up late. I'm up late all, you know, I have problems sleeping, as you all know. And YouTube was like, would you like to watch this TED Talk on the importance of nuclear power? And I was like, I guess, why not? And then, you know, I sat through that and I learned about osmium salt reactors. Not osmium. Maybe? Nah. Some slag metal that is a natural byproduct of a lot of the mining that we do that just gets thrown back into the mines with the rest of the slag. Or not, maybe not metal, maybe element. Thorium reactors. Apparently, they think that you can make a nuclear reactor out of thorium, which is not rare or hard to get. It's theoretical at this point. It would need to be a salt reactor, and that it could be small enough, like it would be small enough to ship inside of a container. So they could be mass produced in a country that rhymes with, I literally can't think of anything that rhymes with China right now. So that didn't go. Anyway, and then they could be shipped all over the world, particularly to like developing nations that need cheap energy and are still using all like combustible fossil fuels or whatever. But it's like completely all theoretical. No one's made one of these. But countries invest like tons of money into these reactors because it's like if anyone breaks it wide open, they're basically going to be the next, you know, Norman Rockefeller or whatever. And I guess they're like the half-life of thorium is way better than uranium or plutonium or any of the like ones that they think about. And I was just like, you know, okay, why are we having a TED Talk on this? Like, in other words, what am I supposed to do with this information? Like, I just told you guys about it. And, you know, I found it mildly interesting. I'm sure, hopefully you found it mildly interesting. But, like, am I supposed to write to my government and be like, how much are you investing in thorium salt reactor research? Because I think it's really important. Fran said she had Eddie Izzard in her feed this morning. Well, that reminds me that I need to look up this. I went to an Eddie Izzard concert, like a live performance, and he started bombing pretty bad. I would say about 2/3 of the way through. Like we could tell, like the energy got really weird. Like we were all not into what he was doing, and he could tell we were really not into what he was doing. He actually had to take a break and leave the stage, go back to his dressing room and like collect himself. And when he came back out, he decided to tell an old joke that he'd told before, because like he does a lot of improvisation on the spot. But he got distracted partway through telling this old joke, and for the first time he said it was like literally, he told us it was literally improvised on the spot. What if instead of owls in the Lord of the Rings, it was butterflies? And he talked about that for like 20-30 minutes, and everyone was laughing hysterically. And then he was like, wait, why am I talking about this? Like, this is all improvised. I have no idea how I even got here. You know, what was the connection? And we were all like trying to remember, you know, like it was such an interesting interaction. And I've always wanted to see if I could find it on YouTube, like if there was a recording of that particular thing about what if the Lord of the Rings was butterflies instead of eagles, but also just the whole like him trying to remember why we were even talking about that, so that he could finish his original thought after he had gone on this like 20-minute digression about the eagles and the Lord of the Rings. But it was also just really interesting to see how well he was able to recover. Like how he was able to sense a mood and do what he needed to do to like come back like what a professional, you know. I forget what he was talking about that was bombing. Maybe it was something political. But I mean, you would think that if you were going to go to an Eddie Izzard concert, you would at least expect his politics, but it was DC, so who knows. But yeah, I was recently thinking about that I was going to try and track it down. All right, so last little piece to cut out, and then we're going to make our vignette on a piece of black cardstock. Yeah, Eddie Izzard, like, yeah. I don't know what you would... I guess if you had only seen him, like, on TV in his more, like, conventional roles or whatever, and then you didn't know what he was like in person, he might be surprising. But I also don't know why then he would be on your radar to go to one of his performances. But he's great. I remember watching an interview with Lawrence Fishburne about acting with him on TV on a show where Eddie Izzard played a surgeon. But he played a surgeon with, and I know I've talked about this before, but Chekhov, the playwright, he has a school of acting. So, and in his school of acting, he says that characters are either head characters, groin characters, or heart characters. And that you just, as an actor, you decide whether the character is going to be a head character, a heart character, or a groin character, and then you play them from your head, from your heart, or from your groin. And that you can like there are combinations that are obvious, and then like you could really do something interesting with a character by doing combinations that aren't obvious. So like an example of a combination that would be obvious would be a nuclear physicist being played as a head character. But a combination that wouldn't be obvious would be maybe a nuclear physicist being played as a groin character. And Lawrence Fishburne is talking about how there's something about the way that Eddie Izzard acts, where he acts from like deep in the saddle, you know, is what he said. And then he gestured to his groin. And it was almost like he, you know, was like calling back to this kind of school of thought on acting. And what was really interesting about it was that Eddie Izzard on that show played a doctor, which is a combination that you would not necessarily think would be obvious, would be to be a doctor but not played as a head character, or not played as a heart character. Even a heart character, you know, for a doctor to be compassionate, care about their patients, yada yada, you know, that also is even more obvious. So look, you guys are learning so much today. Maybe I should make you read Russian literature next year. We could read a Chekhov short story or a play or something. We don't have to read, you know, the really long stuff. We could do a book club on the Russians. Oh, me too, Mary. The first time I heard someone talk about Crime and Punishment, you know, that was it. I was sold. I've read everything, like quite literally everything Dostoevsky ever wrote. Have not read War and Peace, but I'm not as big of a Tolstoy fan, just in general, as I am of Dostoevsky and Chekhov. Solzhenitsyn, like, you know, I recognize, like, some of the genius at work there, but man, One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich really, I really went through it with that one. All right, last one to ink. But, you know, Crime and Punishment is not that long. Did she think Crime and Punishment was Tolstoy? Or was she switching gears, do you think? 2017? No, it would have been earlier than that because we left. Well, it might have been in 2017. It would have been at National Theater in Washington, D.C. We left Virginia in 2017. So, oh, her husband corrected her. Well, that's good. Phew. So it might have been. But yeah, we would be looking for National Theater 2017. Okay. So I'm going to put like that. And then I'm going to take the spooky and put it like that. There's one in February of 2017. I would still have been there. That could very well have been it. Oh my gosh, did you guys find it? Bev, how amazing. That's the internet, folks. That's the internet. All right. Yeah, I like Dostoevsky more than Tolstoy. There's some things, some idiosyncrasies about Tolstoy's writing that just I don't love. The farm thing, the agriculture stuff, I just like, no, stop. Please stop talking about farms. Please. Please. And then his characters also, yeah, yes, that's a very good way of putting it. Tolstoy went through more moods and his writing shows it. Well, and Dostoevsky had like such a clear plan for his works where if you read them all, his progression of ideas and how he brings everything together is, I mean, it's just complete genius. You know, and so consistent, his voice. So, which is not to say that Tolstoy is bad. Obviously not, you know. And not everything he wrote is like War and Peace, you know. But Dostoevsky, in my opinion, I think is better at if you take the body of his work, the entire body of his work, what is there is so, it's so powerful. Like, so few authors have gotten people in so consistently and so complexly, I guess, that I would recommend reading everything that he wrote. You know, there are even the books of his that are bad, because he has some that are tougher to get through than others. Like Crime and Punishment is no problem. Like, I would recommend that to anyone. It's interesting, you know, it's shorter. It's definitely probably one of his most approachable things. But if you kind of read as you go, he gets harder, more complex, whatever, as he goes. So if you read the books the way in the order he wrote them, and that's a revelation. So I don't know. Anyway, and then Chekhov. Oh my gosh. Again, just understanding of human beings. You know. Some of the greatest writers of the 19th century were writing in Russia, for sure. For sure, for sure, for sure. I was going to cut it out with my craft mat, but I think I'll start with my scissors, because I think there might only be a few areas that I need to do with the craft mat. And I want to try and leave, you know, a collar around. But yeah, Chekhov, I mean, his short stories are so good. And they're, you know, easy bites, like compared to how the Russians tend to be wordy. And we make a lot of Chekhov's blank jokes in our house. So like, if you if you're familiar with how in movies, when an object is going to be important later, editors like to do, they show you the object once, they remind you the object's there a little bit later in case you forgot, and then they do the big reveal where the object becomes important. And so we are constantly, like, when we're watching movies, being like, well, that's going to be Chekhov's Fitbit or whatever, you know, because Chekhov liked to have in his plays and in the performances of his plays, he wanted no like waste, you know, nothing that was just there that wasn't going to be used. And so he kind of like famously said, if there's a gun on the stage in the first act, it better be going off in the third act or something like that. And that principle is known as Chekhov's gun. So yeah. Yeah, exactly. He didn't want just a bunch of stuff on the set that didn't have meaning. So yeah, but like we will make jokes, you know, that's Chekhov's spaghetti sauce or whatever, like if we think we see an object that's going to be important later, that like it's being set up. Oh, that's too bad. All right, I'm going to ponder the nationalities thing, because that could be an interesting theme for 2021 for book club. I'm not going to do like every single month necessarily do a different nationality. I think that might be a bit much, but maybe every other month or so. That could be fun to explore. All right, so with this one, I'm going to glue it just because I have already cut it out and it doesn't have adhesive on it. Like it was already cut out before I started. Mary, if you have ever heard Dr. Cornel West is way, way into Dostoevsky, Chekhov, the Russian writers of that era, with a particular love for Dostoevsky and Chekhov. And when he talks about them, he loves them so much. It's just so beautiful. See if you can find him talking about them. If you, you know. All right. And so this one can go on top of that. It's adhesive, but you can put tape over glue. You just don't put glue over tape. All right. If we do French authors, I'm not reading any existentialists. I can't. I wrote so many papers on existentialists in college because I had a particular focus in my history major on kind of the aftermath of World War I. And so, Bev says we should just skip the French. I know, I don't want to get in trouble with France again. I don't want to, I forget what I said that offended France, but I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of things. I'm sure I've offended France more than once on this show. They would probably not appreciate hearing my thoughts on most of their great works. Although one of my favorite books of all time, probably my favorite like action adventure book is The Count of Monte Cristo. As long as we don't have to read Nabokov. Would you count Nabokov as Russian or French? He wrote a lot of his books in French, but he was Russian. But he was exiled, so I think but he was Russian originally. Nabokov is funny, you know. He's known for the one kind of infamous book, but he's written some other stuff that's quite funny. You didn't study him as Russian? Yeah, well, he lived a huge part of his life in France, and he wrote a lot of his books in French. Now, it was very normal for Russians of his era to know French. There's historical reasons for that. So a lot of Russian expatriates moved to France because they knew the language. So, yeah, I don't know if he would have considered himself as Russian or French. That might be interesting to know. French was the language of diplomacy, and in particular, the Russians of the 18th century is kind of where it like peaked. But the Russians were very like Francophilic. So when they were looking at countries they could have diplomatic relations with and be allied with, like they kind of always turned to France in sort of the more modern times. And it probably would have been better for them if they had actually looked at Germany. Of course, the world would be a totally different place if they had done that. But like from a Russian perspective. But like one of the czars in particular just like loved French so much, I don't think he spoke Russian at court. So I want to say it was one of the Peters. Specifically, I think the St. Petersburg is maybe named after, but I don't remember. Because there's only so much you are going to remember from your history of Russian diplomacy class 20 years later. Although, I do have a funny story from my history of Russian diplomacy. I mean, I have lots of funny stories from my history of Russian diplomacy class because that professor was kind of a nut. But like, that was a 3-hour night class that we had once a week, okay? And that professor went over all the time. So it's really painful when a 3-hour night class goes over. And so he would just talk and talk and talk, and we would not want to leave. And we would just want to leave. Like, we couldn't even comprehend anything. And then the other thing that he did is he always had the classroom in complete darkness because he had a million maps and like whatever. So he always had a slide projector going like constantly the whole time. And so it was just, all right, so that's what it's going to look like. Okay. So that's pretty awesome. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put black foam tape, you know, on most of the skull, but I'm going to leave like a little corner without any. And that's where we'll hide the Brad. But that's how it's going to look on the page. And then this part will swivel down like that. And this part will stay stationary. I mean, it's probably Peter the Great. I mean, that would be the obvious answer. I don't know what number Peter the Great is. So, which Peter he is. But yeah, I mean, St. Petersburg is probably named after Peter the Great. That would make sense. Well, most people you would know Catherine the Great, Peter the Great, Ivan the Terrible, probably Nicholas. You know, those are the ones I would expect the majority of people to know some stuff about. But Nicholas II was the last Tsar, and he was the one who had Rasputin in his court. And the last Romanov. Nicholas II, I think. Can't remember for sure. If you ever want to if you like unsolved mysteries, weird history, stuff like that, sometime just look up how many times they killed Rasputin. Because the answer is like once, but also like 7 times. Because he kept coming back to life. All right. But yeah, so yeah, Russian literature. They wrote some short stuff. We could do something short. I bet we could do it. Okay. So now I've got everything on the skull I need to, elevate it. So I'm going to put, my brad will go here, but I want to put my magnet here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace this, I think, and then cut out pattern paper and put it on the back. I'm just going to use whatever I have a scrap of. It doesn't have to be, anything that exciting. I'm just going to take this piece here. Yeah, well, like, there are kind of some explanations for why. Basically, Rasputin survived something like 6 or 7 assassination attempts in one day. But they weren't like, it wasn't like they tried to shoot him and they missed. It was stuff like they poisoned him with like multiple lethal doses of cyanide or strychnine or something. And then he didn't die. So then they decided to shoot him. And they shot him multiple times and he didn't die. And like, I think they shot him like in the head. Like, these are not, and then finally they tied him up and threw him in the river. And when his body washed ashore, he was partially untied. So like, he even was still like trying to get free after like all of these things. So, but yeah, that was just one of those weird things where, but it's like, they're like, well, maybe, the poison slowed his blood. So that's why the shots didn't kill him. And then the river, cause it was so cold, it put him in like, it actually helped him. That's kind of like how they try to explain it, right? It's just one of those weird things, people can just medical stuff is weird. Just don't know. Oh, you missed. Yeah, we've been talking about Russian. I mean, we talked about all kinds of stuff. We did the trolley problem. We talked about Russian literature. Eddie Izzard. Like, all kinds of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out. It doesn't have to be perfect because no one's going to flip your book upside down to look at it on the back. But you do want something there to cover the magnet, so the magnet doesn't, except Fran. Fran will probably flip it over and look at the back. That's true. So it's all for you, Fran. It's all for you that we're doing this. So you have something to look at. One of our January books does take place in Russia during World War II. And I just watched Enemy at the Gates with my brother while he was here for the wedding/Thanksgiving, which is about snipers at the siege of Stalingrad. It's got kind of a weird cast. Like, Ed Harris plays the German sniper. And, he doesn't really give me major German sniper vibes, but whatever. Jude Law plays the Russian sniper. Joseph Fiennes plays the propagandist. I guess some British guy whose name is escaping me right now, but who's super famous, you would recognize him if you saw him because he does a ton of stuff, played Khrushchev, and I was like, this is a weird Khrushchev choice. All right. So I'm just going to ink the edges of this. We'll put a magnet on the back, and then we'll glue this over the magnet. Just make sure it's going to fit. It's going to fit fine. So we're going to put the magnet here. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch magnet just so... Oh, wait. I was going to say I'm going to use a 1/2 inch magnet so I don't have to be as careful about placement, because I was thinking I would use a inch magnet, but I'm out of inch magnets, so whatever. I'm just going to use this one. Yeah, I would like Winter Garden. I think Winter Garden would be a great choice. I would feel bad if the Snow Child lost 2 years in a row, but then maybe that's just the Snow Child's destiny, you know. But yeah, Kristen Hanna, she wrote The Nightingale, which is another World War II drama, which I think has a sequel coming out. Historical fiction. But yeah, like, a lot of people don't know this about World War II, but most of the deaths from World War II were in Russia. So that was the highest casualty part of the war, and the Soviet Union was really devastated by the war, you know, more so than... like they had like a World War I experience with World War II, where an entire generation of men was just killed, you know. Something like 80% of people of the generation that fought in the war died. And of the like 100 million people who died in World War II, or because of World War II, like, so not like 100 million soldiers were killed, but people starved to death, things like that. Over half of them were in Russia. So in the Soviet Union. So, I mean, they really were devastated by the war, but we could not have won it without Russia being, you know. And Stalin did kill a lot of his own men. Yeah. I mean, Stalin sucked a lot, you know. And like in The Enemy at the Gates, like if the men retreated, they would just shoot them, you know. And it's like sometimes a tactical retreat makes sense, but you know, there's so many political factors at play with what was going on, so that they just didn't allow it. They didn't allow retreats. So, yeah, Russia really, I mean, they really went through it. Not like, you know, I mean, everyone really went through it, but like they really went through it, like more so than any other nation in terms of like percentage of their population killed. It hit them the hardest. So, I mean, on the Western Front. I mean, obviously on the Eastern Front, the poor Chinese were the ones who really went through it. Okay, now let's see. Where are my brads? Do you guys know? Do you guys know where I put them after I reorganized my desk? Because I probably put them somewhere smart. Probably did. Probably made a lot of sense to me when I was doing it. Or the European front and the Pacific front. I guess Eastern and Western front are more World War I terms. Okay, so I seem to have lost all my brads. So that's cool for me. I don't think I like put them away, do you? Does that sound like me? What about the drawer on the right side of your desk? Yeah, there's not really a... I think just because Mr. Lifeguard and I had to take everything on and off my desk so many times. I remember moving my brads so they wouldn't just like fall off the desk or spill everywhere. And I remember thinking when I moved them, there's no way I'll forget that I put them here. And guess what? Guess what? Here we are. So I'm going to look in my embellishment, my metal, my staples bin, because that's where they would be if I was smart. So that's not where they are. Why wouldn't I just put them away? Why am I so crazy sometimes? I mean, I have brads in here. I can just use a Tim Holtz brad. But the real question is, where is my unending bag of brads? All right, well, I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'll just use a Tim Holtz brad. Ugh, it probably was Tiny Cat. So, wherever I put them, I thought it was smart. But yeah, I'll find them eventually. All right. Huh. Well, that's a mystery. I'm going to move this brad into my monitor's stand so that I don't accidentally knock it off. That's how this is going to look. Look at that. Oh, wait. I have to peel some tape off this. I'm going to peel this tape because I need... Oh, I'm not going to... No, I'll peel it off. So, okay. I need this to be able to overlap it, you know. Like so. So that's how it's going to look. Okay, so now this just has to go on top of something on the book. So it's going to go, let me grab the book. Okay. Oh, I can't have tape on the top of this guy either, because it's got to tuck under him. It's okay. It's fine. Just peel it off. All right. Yeah, that'll be fine. So it's going to go just like so. All right. now we need whatever paper is going to go, you know, and back them. I think I want something orange, so let's go. Let's find some orange. Orange. I remember we have like an 8x8 piece here that we need to cover. I could use the top of this. It'll cut off part of her hat, but I don't think it'll be that noticeable, you know? Yeah, it's not really going to look like, that's where it cuts off. It just could be smoke or bats or whatever. Although, because of the bats, this looks like it's floating in outer space. So I'm going to get rid of it because you guys know, you know how I feel about things that are floating in outer space. I'm going to do this and I'm going to have it going sideways and then it'll look like they're all sitting on a shelf. So I'm going to cut this to 7 3/4 by 7 3/4. Oh, wow. Like, I guess my plan was to just craft until dinner time or something. It's 4:15. Okay, so that's going to go there. And then we'll just put these guys there. Okay, I'm gonna flip it over just out of curiosity, see if I like putting them on this shelf better, which I do. So I'm gonna get everything positioned exactly where I want it. Got you where I want you. Then I'm going to use a marker or a pen and mark where the hole needs to be for the brad. Just going to use my pen to poke the hole. And then put this through the hole. And I need to widen the hole, this hole, so this can spin a little bit better. So I'm going to get my 3/16 or my 1/16 hole punch. and punch it out. I just need to hold it up to the light or something. Okay. All right, so now I can set the bread. Okay. And we're going to tape and ink. Of course, now I'm like on the edge of my desk. Okay. I just want a decent amount of tape here at the bottom because I want to make sure that the bottom is held flat so this isn't pulling the bread through the paper. I didn't talk about the wedding that much. It was, I will say it was, you know, it was outdoors. The weather was nice. It was actually a little bit cloudy, so all the pictures are probably going to turn out great. The photographer was really happy. And it was just short, you know, but it was a pretty day and it was a nice view and it was a nice ceremony. So everything turned out beautifully. Did my sister's makeup. I looked cute. Everyone looked cute. Yeah, exactly, Fran. No one's squinting. No harsh sunlight spots or harsh shadows. So cloudy is great for photos. And now, and then Damien moved in here. So they're staying with us at least until the lease is up. I don't know what they'll do after that. I don't know if they know what they'll do after that. But the lease is up in March. And hopefully we'll just renew the lease because I would rather not move again. Although these people have been kind of a disaster as landlords, that's for sure. Yeah, the house has not cooperated. All right, so that's going to go there. So now, and then that's going to go there. So I'll just peel the tape. Yep. And everyone said it was a nice wedding, and my parents thought it was beautiful and everyone looked great. Okay. All right. So the way it'll work is foomp, and then ta-da. I guess with the little skull, we didn't really need to make it swivel, but whatever. It still gives us the trapdoor effect that I wanted. The secret lab trapdoor effect. So, all right. So I just want to get a metal piece and put some tape on the back of it and then stick it down so that we have that in place, because I don't think I'm going to necessarily remember it from tonight. So I'm just going to snap it to the magnet and then press it down, and that'll give the magnet something to hold on to. Okay? All right. Cute. Cute, 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 cute. All right. Yay. Yay, yay, yay. Okay. All right. So that is this element. So when we come back tonight, what we'll be doing is we're going to finish the decorating of this element, and then we're going to work on the inserts, making some cute inserts for this element. So that's what's next. I'll be back at 9 p.m. Eastern USA time, which is 4.5 hours from now. So whatever time it is where you are, add 4.5 hours. That's when I'll be back. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you all had a wonderful break, and I will see you next time. Bye now.